Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you for joining us on this review of The Rings of Power Season 2, Episode 5. We got all three of us here tonight.
Episode
Yay.
5. We need 3 more episodes till the season is over, which it seems like we just started this and it's already almost over.
Well, part of it's because they dropped 3 episodes at the start of this thing.
Yeah.
And we had to sit down and watch
All
3
three of-
episodes in one day so we
Yeah.
could go live that same night. My goodness.
That was fun.
A general feeling that you guys are having about this season as a whole, or this episode we're going to review tonight. I think the biggest feeling I'm feeling is just what doesn't completely annoy me most of the time just makes me sad.
The issue for me is like most of the problems that we're having and most of the storylines we're following, it almost seems as if they're trying to conceal something or make things surprising or intriguing. But honestly, number one, it feels really drawn out, and every scene feels it feels mystery boxy. It's like, here's something, they show you half of it, and then we skip on over to, whatever the elves are doing, and then we got to come back to the dwarves, and then we got to have the rest of the conversation. It's boring. It sucks, and I hate it.
Or
It's
just
boring, it sucks.
try to progress the story a little bit when they throw in a lot of things that you remember from Lord of the Rings, like the door. This episode they threw the door
Oh my
in.
gosh, the door.
And it was like, why are we seeing this door? It was kind of an important thing, but out of all of the architect, things in Middle Earth, you have to see a door, one door. And it's like, this is important only because it's shown in Lord of the Rings.
I was wondering why it wasn't attached to the mountain.
Yeah.
Why was
Like,
this
how did they get
door
it there?
in Eregion? I don't. That was the stupidest thing.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, and I was sort of half paying attention. I'm making notes, and John Mark is sitting there with me, and he goes, "Is that the door? What is it? Why is it in the forge?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be on the mountain."
And they're like, it's completely hidden. You can't see it unless very specific time.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, it's right.
Yeah, just tell everybody the secret of how you can find this door.
Yeah,
in the
also,
moon.
the moon isn't shining on the runes.
Mm.
Why are they visible for us?
Well, because they said the secret code. They're like, secret code, moon.
Or have they
Friend.
not like, or have they not like, laid out the runes in the door? I don't know. All I know is that I thought it was very stupid that there was a stone door in the middle of a room.
It's the same thing that we kind of we saw it the entire first season. It's even more this season. They're trying to make a prequel to Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, and they're making actual Tolkien lore an Easter egg, but primarily they're trying to do callbacks or call forwards, whichever is the correct terminology there, for Peter Jackson's movies. And that's the only priority they have. So when it comes to the door, this door is inconsequential to whatever is going to happen in this story. And they're only doing it for the purpose of an Easter egg. That's it. And it's completely for the Peter Jackson trilogy, not for the second age of Middle Earth where Tolkien wrote. Just because there was 2 things that I actually somewhat appreciated in this episode. Was there anything that you guys felt like you appreciated? This is like the only episode that I actually liked something.
I had I think at least 2 things.
I had something, but say yours because it's probably the same thing, and so I don't want to step on your toes.
So the first thing I liked was when Farazan, that's his name, right? Farazan.
Yeah, Farazan.
I liked when he was talking to that dude, and they mentioned how his son, and they mentioned how at the highest peak in Numenor, they could see Valinor. You know what I mean? A very willed eye could see Valinor. I liked that because that is sort of again, it's an Easter egg to stuff that's actually in the books, but it is actually a very correct piece of lore from the appendices of Tolkien and with Numenor, and the whole thing about the elves somewhat rubbing it in their faces and everything, that they are not immortal the same way
Well, see,
that elves are.
They're watering it down here. They're twisting it. It's not, they make it seem like the men are just essentially racist against the elves and are jealous of their immortality, but the Numenorians originally had nothing to be really jealous about. The Numenorians were the strongest.
Well, they were
bravest.
jealous. They were jealous about their immortality, and they believed that
now
if
hold
they
on, if you
stormed,
let me finish.
okay,
Man.
go ahead.
That was instilled in them by Sauron
Yes,
when he was captured by Ar-Pharazôn.
Yes,
and became his advisor, and they started building temples to Morgoth and human sacrifices and stuff, and they were tricked into wanting the immortality of Valinor for themselves. That's the issue. Here they're just saying, oh, Pharazôn just is jealous of the elves.
right.
There's no need for Sauron. There's no need for Morgoth.
There is a bit of a twisting that you're saying to basically be like, well, he's not being provoked or he's not being manipulated. He's just racist.
Yeah, he's just bad.
So that I see what your point is.
Which we knew
there.
he was bad in the book.
Yeah.
We knew he wasn't a good guy, but the Sauron did a lot of work to get them to really turn evil.
Right.
Numenor, not Pharazôn, but all of Numenor.
I'm not a fan of everything they're doing with Numenor. In fact, I'm very upset with it. I'm just saying that little conversation about being able to see Valinor in the distance with if you have a really strong eye from the highest point in Numenor. I liked that little detail. That's all I'm saying. The other thing that I enjoyed was when Celebrimbor and Annatar was talking about the rings for men, and Annatar started bringing up about the different men who could be worthy, right?
Yeah, see,
for rings.
I agree with that moment. Like, that seemed like something he would do, is use goodness and strength and courage, to convince him to, subtly manipulate him.
Well, unlike every character, every elf in this story, in that moment, the actor Halbrand, whatever you want to call him, Sauron, in that moment, if he actually, the dude was acting his butt off for that little section, because if you looked at him, he actually looked like he had the ethereal wisdom of an ancient being, right?
Yeah.
He actually had that mysterious but very wise unearthly stare that elves would have, having been around for centuries. But nobody, except for that moment with Sauron's character playing Annatar, is the only time I've seen it in this entire show.
I would argue that his Annatar is the only character that I feel like is really, really kind of fits what the character should be. He's elf-like, he's tall, he's of that age where you don't know how old he really is. He's got the long hair, and he
conducts himself like an elf.
Like an elf. He looks like he could be. He looks like he could be really strong, but he also looks like he could be very kind. He looks like he could be dangerous, but peaceful. He's the only one I feel like fits like that.
An elf vibe at all.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
And for all of the lines, the dialogue is stilted and bad, and it waxes fake poetic all the time. His is the only one that works because as a more ethereal being, he's supposed to talk a little bit differently to Celebrimbor.
I
Yeah.
honestly think a lot of it. I think his dialogue is still kind of crappy
Oh,
written wise.
You know,
But what I'm
get
saying
away
is
from
like
home,
his
man.
delivery and the physical acting that he's
Mhm.
doing kind of blinds you from that, and actually you do get pulled into this moment, this character, what he's communicating with his face
He's
more than any
a
other.
much better elf than he is a human.
Human.
Yeah, he's a better elf than he is Sauron.
hmm
He's a lot better elf than he is a Sauron.
The one of the scenes that I enjoyed, and there was a lot around it I did not enjoy that kind of felt dumb in my opinion, but there was one small portion of it that I liked was I can't think of the character's name. I tried looking it up. I think it's the actor's like I think his name is Lloyd Owen or something like that. The captain of the human
The Numenor,
humans. Yes.
Numenorian captain.
The part where they're kind of turning all their stuff in and he turns his sword in and then they all are like captain and
Elendil?
yes
Elendil. Yeah, Isildur's dead. I hated
Elendil.
that portion.
It was corny.
I hated the "Oh Captain, my Captain" portion. I know why Josh liked
Well,
it because it
it's
was
to me.
"Oh Captain, my Captain."
yeah I liked it.
But
There was a
hate-
lot around it that was dumb, but I liked that portion. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
I
mean,
honestly
that
think we've
wouldn't-
probably I think we've talked about the good things of the show enough, more than it's worth, right?
Yeah,
Let's
Well,
get
I-
into going through a few of these.
I don't want to sort of just haphazardly, go this and that. But what we get is a lot of dwarves in this episode. It opens up with the dwarves. It opens up with Durin the Third breaking out open, the sun holes in the mountains, and the whole sequence I felt was a little bit off. The CGI pickaxe and hole were terrible.
I hated it. It was bothering me so much. It was like the stick he was holding was
Yeah.
real,
Yeah.
but the
it
entire
looked
wall
fake.
and the
Yeah.
pit,
Yeah.
and it didn't
Wait-
fall correctly. It was so
It was
so
and he
difficult.
was he was just breaking through the rocks so easy. He was just like ting ting,
Also,
and it was like
what's with
just
the
cracking.
what's with the rings corrupting? The rings shouldn't be corrupting right now. The rings aren't evil until Sauron puts on the One Ring.
Well,
The rings shouldn't be. These are not the One Ring. They don't corrupt. They're just powerful magic.
yes.
They shouldn't be whispering to anybody. I don't get it.
All right. I got a serious question about the freaking magic system in this
Mhm.
show, because the magic system does not make any sense
Yeah.
at all. One of it is like hard magic to where it can heal people.
hmm
And then another part of it is, well, is it soft magic to where it doesn't really serve
Yeah.
a purpose, except maybe it can lead you, if you pay attention, to where there could be light. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And then
Well,
also
actually, I
there's-
would say his is pretty hard because he says, "I can see everything in the mountain." That's
then-
pretty hardcore. He's not saying like I sense it, I feel it. He says, "No, I see it. I can see all the treasure."
But then later, the girl elf, who's a little I guess people are gonna probably try to ship her and Halbrand because she's flirting with him.
Because they actually
Oh.
kind of seemingly have chemistry.
Seemingly. So she puts on another ring of power where she disappears.
Yeah, she disappeared.
She
That
has
was
this weird
crazy.
dark Sauron vision.
vision.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to be like, okay, is Sauron in control of his powers, or does he have no control of his dark evilness at
Yeah.
all?
Why would
It's
he
just
also
so
make a ring
haphazard.
that could potentially uncover him
Or raise suspicion as
or
to
raise
the
suspicion?
quality of these here rings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, tell me so I thought they actually had some visuals of like the dwarf kingdom and stuff where it zooms out and they're down in caves and it looks
Yeah.
big and it looks cool. It feels dwarfish.
Yeah.
But then Durin 3 says they're all, all of them out there, who aren't living in the mountain. They're slaves to the sun.
Slaves to the sun?
I said, you guys are slaves to the sun. What are you talking about? What are you talking like you're not?
You've
You're
been
having to
freaking
dig
out.
holes to reflect
I would-
onto your mirrors because your crops are dying and you're not willing to trade with anybody. You are the slaves.
I heard that and I was a little confused by that. I was like, wait, what do they mean by that? They can
Yeah.
live under the mountain, and it's like I was confused. I was like, that's the dumbest. That's
I
dumb
know the
'cause I'm
point.
confused.
The point is we're bending the sun to our will. It's like, but that none of that made sense. They thought it was clever writing, but it was bad.
It was worse than bad. I mean, the whole thing. Let's keep going down the series of events. Do you guys want to live in Moria for a little while?
I feel like yeah.
Nah,
I mean,
I'd be depressed to live there.
I feel like that's. I feel
God.
like it's that and Numenor that we're getting the most of. And
Yeah. Okay. So in Moria, first let me just say this. It opens up with the ring. All right. It opens up, the dwarf rings have been delivered. Okay.
Mhm.
This is so frustrating. So right off the bat, we don't really see the crafting process. It happens off screen. It also happens very quickly. We know that not a lot of time has passed
Mhm.
because Galadriel is still in the custody of Wrinkle Guy.
Oh, dude, this show has a huge timeline problem.
So they try to set it up like, oh, this could have taken a while. Apparently, like making 7 rings of power is super quick and easy. Let's just point this out. In the books, there is no suspicion of any of the rings that Anatar and Celebrimbor make, except from Galadriel from afar, right?
Who's suspicious of Anatar?
Who's suspicious of Anatar, not the rings.
Right.
That also, it is over 50 years that Anatar and Celebrimbor are crafting the rings of power together.
Yeah.
So,
And I would
she's
say they're
been
not even
captured for
called
50 years. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is
yes,
that
essentially.
with freaking Galadriel in custody and Elrond and the little crew running through the forest, it seems to me like they made 7 rings of power over the course of a 12-hour evening.
Yeah.
Is essentially what it looks like to me.
When
And
it
delivered
seemed like-
them hundreds of miles away.
It seemed like each ring maybe took time and effort and skill, and it was like they were making magic rings. The elves made magic rings all the time. They weren't, I don't think, understood to be the rings of power until after the fact, till years later, where they probably called that. But in this, they reference it all the time. We're making the rings of power. That's the name of the show, guys. Come on.
Well, there also wasn't like
And the freestanding moon doors.
the moon doors. So the timeline is so incredibly whack. It doesn't make sense to me. And as soon as he puts the ring on, the Durin, he's instantly being guided and corrupted, and everyone's suspicious, right?
Mhm.
So what I'm trying to figure out is, how does any of this, I don't know, did that stand out to you guys? The quickness of how all this is
Oh,
happening?
I
it
didn't
was
think
super
about
quick.
it, but it felt weird when I was like, when they showed her in the cage, and I'm like, wait, how did we get here? That felt weird to me. I didn't think, timeline wise, but it definitely was weird.
And I mean, there's so many issues with the timeline stuff where, the rings are there now, but how
Yes.
long did it take the rings to get to Khazad-dûm, right? But then that other dwarf, the counselor, the delve master,
Mhm.
right, which is what he's called, pretty sick. I was sitting there, I was like, I wish I was a delve master. I'd be delving.
I'd be down.
You
with the
best
Delve
believe
Master.
I'd be delving. He goes back to Eregion. Then he comes back to the mountain. How long did each of those trips take? Durin
Durin
goes to Eregion
to Region
Yeah.
and back.
and back.
Yes.
What?
In the course of one
What-
episode.
One episode. What with this fast
Yeah.
travel stuff?
I I know they had fast
No clue.
travel in this, but I want to kind of compare it to like House of the Dragon, because House of the Dragon, especially season 1, had a lot of time skips, and it was weird, but it made sense.
Yeah, but
And
that's
yes,
time skips.
there was time skips, but it showed that there was time skips. Here, it's like day, and it's like they go from one side
One side
of
of
Middle Earth to the other side, and it's like one day, if that, and it doesn't feel like they traveled at all.
Well, like, for example, Sauron had to travel from Eregion after he revealed himself to Galadriel. He had to travel from Eregion to Mordor and then get captured and then travel all the way back, right? In
Yes.
the time that it would have taken him to get to Mordor, all of the events that have taken place up to this episode could have happened. Elrond and Galadriel traveling to Eregion from Lindon and back, honestly, before he would have gotten to Mordor.
I have a question. Do you think so? They are trying to mimic Peter Jackson heavily. Like they're trying to this to be a prequel show for Peter Jackson's version, not for the books, but for Peter Jackson's version. And do you think the time skips and all that, even though yes, Amazon is at fault here, we kind of have to blame Peter Jackson a little bit, because there was a lot of this in Peter Jackson's movies, like between Frodo getting the ring from Bilbo, Gandalf leaves, finds it out it's the One Ring, then comes back and gets Frodo. That was 20 years, I think, and
but
in the movie it felt quick.
They don't specify any kind of time period, and it would be weird if Gandalf went back to I don't know, the White City. What's it called?
Minas Tirith.
If he had gone back and then come back to Frodo again, and that would have been weird. But they don't specify any time. This show is showing us other perspectives of other people, giving us a general timeline for things that are happening.
Yeah.
None of it falls into place.
Elrond is still running through the forest back to his High King elf.
Yeah, and
You know what I mean?
and Durin has made 3 trips
to
Eregion.
And also the rings were delivered, 3 trips. Adore at some point needs to be delivered to the gates of Khazad-dûm.
Absolutely. I'm sure it's already there.
And the corruption has already taken root. All right,
dude. Instantly, the rings were whispering before he picked it up.
Yeah. I mean,
also not just the corruption, but the suspicion from characters like his son.
Well, I mean, Bilbo had the ring for like 50 plus years, and he didn't really get corrupted that much till closer to the end of having it. And this guy has ring for the powerful ring that's supposed to corrupt you. These other rings corrupted this guy in like it seemed like a couple of days.
Yeah. Oh,
it's not even corruption. It's literally like they're making it feel so sinister, but all it is deception. It's not a maddening of the brain. It's not like a complete loss of self when it comes to the deception of Sauron. It is literally just deception, and then it's too late once you are deceived. But it's not like this weird, almost like a meth user out on the streets. You know what I mean? And that's what it's leading to.
And I feel like they completely assassinated Durin 4's character in this one, where in the previous ones he's making interesting decisions. This one he's just kind of confused the entire time.
Yes.
And I mean, I think it makes sense somewhat for his character, but he should not just be like standing around looking mildly confused or sometimes impressed or having no idea what to do.
So Disa.
Yeah.
So she purchases a very expensive gift for her.
Well, hold on. Let's hit because that happens later. Let's let's hit a little bit of the Numenorians, uh, just because there was the first scene they show where the "Oh Captain, My Captain" stuff happens.
Mhm.
They set down the very first soldier. I don't know if you guys noticed this. He sets down his folded clothes and he puts his hand on it. On top of the clothes is a knife. When he touches it, it bends inward.
I didn't see that.
You got it. If you have time, go watch it. But the knife, it's like, I would say probably about the size of this one.
Yeah,
It bends inward like this when he touches
that's funny.
it, when he pushes it forward. And I was like, this is like $1 billion show.
This is okay. Let's stay on that for a second. This is such an annoying aspect to me. So when you compare it to shows that were made for less, like Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, right? Those cost less money. In the streets of Westeros, in the streets of any town, any city, it's hustling, bustling, and there's people out there, and it feels like streets, don't it? This show gives you a really wide landscape, and then it cuts to a little tiny dinky street.
I noticed that every time. They'll show the orc camp, and then everybody will be inside, and there'll be barriers all the way around.
Little barrier, and with just a few extras in there, and it's like, how did House of the Dragon make a set, like Westeros, which is just sets? It is just streets and extras, people on the streets, and they just build like cheaply made plaster buildings. How did they make that look like a city? And this show that it's spending more money.
They know what they're
production,
doing. They don't know what they're doing here.
Everybody's
outfits are too clean. They're all costumes. It's like a stage play.
Everything feels like a stage play, and all of the sets for the scenes feel like a freaking stage that doesn't have any depth. It doesn't have any room to breathe. Doesn't feel like anything
no nuance
in reality I've ever seen. And Numenor is supposed to be incredible. And all the rooms, like the main Numenorian castle room, can only fit like 40 people.
Yeah. Yeah, or like they've got the little ceremony area with the pool, which we've seen before, I think.
It can only fit like 40 people.
And you get a couple of extras.
Numenor is huge. Why is everything feel so incredibly small when we get intimate with the scenes and the characters? You know what I mean?
But I mean, so that scene happens. The "Oh Captain, My Captain" scene happens, and my brother pointed out to me that the guy who plays Elendil stands like this and looks kind of like this all the time.
He's got the cool guy swag.
Once he pointed it out, I couldn't unsee it. Like, they grab him, they arrest him, and he's
still like,
he's like kind of half cocked, like looking up like that. And he said it, and I can't unsee it now. Every time he's in a scene,
he just does like a shoulder forward.
That was weird, man. He was like, he's not your captain anymore, and then he like turns around and looks at everybody, and I was waiting for him to say something super inspiring. And he gives up his sword.
Oh, this is what it is. It drags on for so long. You see the wheels turning. Everyone's waiting with bated breath to hear what he has to say. And all he says was, he's right. And then he waits for literally,
oh my God,
25 seconds.
So
and then he says,
long.
We're waiting for something really well written to come out of this guy's mouth. And all he says is, I'm not.
Yeah.
That's it.
I was waiting for no, I'm not your captain, but I am, something. I don't know anything.
It was like, he turned
so
around.
So many pauses.
It
hurt, man.
It's like they've definitely trying to fill time. Okay. And also, by the way, we're at episode 5. We got 3 more episodes. No battles that we've been promised. There's been no battles.
I heard this was going to be a huge battle season. Like they were saying, like the majority of the season is battles.
No
Nothing,
battles.
dude.
No,
Just
And then
just
I mean,
really
unless
fast corruption.
there's a battle in
real quick, what do
every
you guys think
episode.
of like? What do you guys think of the Palantir thing going on? Are Palantirs evil?
With the zombies,
No, the Palantir, the Seeing Stone.
the Seeing Stone.
Oh,
Yeah. I didn't think they
Not
were
that
evil.
one. Not that one.
I didn't think the stones themselves were evil. I thought
I
they
don't
were
think they
dangerous
are.
I
because
thought
you never knew who was watching you.
yes, yes.
That's
That's
kind
it.
of what I thought. But they're making it like this thing is showing
Mm.
visions. It's dangerous.
Well, because it was evil in Peter Jackson's version, so it's evil in this version.
It is only evil in Peter Jackson's version because Sauron had the other side.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
What do you got?
I
What
was
do you
just gonna say it's a freaking telephone. That's all that thing
Yeah.
is. It's a telephone. It's a Middle Earth telephone. It's FaceTime.
So they go back to the dwarves,
Yeah.
and Durin 3 actually hits us with, we need to delve deeper.
Right.
How can we be delving too deep, guys? How can we get to that point?
Yeah.
You might as well said, hey, can we delve too deep? You know? Saruman was like, they delved too deeply.
And so and to
He
set that up,
says,
he said we need to delve deeper.
we need to be delving much deeper. He's like, delve master, get in here and show me the numbers of the depths of which we can delve.
And then we're gonna delve even deeper.
And we're gonna keep delving. I love that there's a delve master.
So I'm so confused by what they're attempting to do here
They're
with the
delving.
Balrog. Oh, they're in Khazad-dûm, all right? They're gonna delve too deep and they're gonna wake up a Balrog. So my question is, all right, we are aware that a few thousand years into the Third Age
Mm-hmm.
is like it's relatively unknown to only a few, like Gandalf, that knows that a Balrog's been woken up. I have a feeling if a Balrog has been woken up and has been in Khazad-dûm free and roaming for a few thousand years from the end of the Second Age into the Third Age, I feel like that's a thing a majority of Middle Earth would be aware of, right?
No, yeah.
So they're literally attempting to tell the story of waking up the Balrog at this point in time.
Yeah.
You think that's how the season's gonna end?
The Balrog that battles with Gandalf in Fellowship of the
The
Ring.
Balrog. Yes. That's the one. That's the one,
This
dude.
is so frustrating.
Do you think that's how the season's gonna end? Is
Could be.
them-
I wouldn't be surprised if they put it off till. Didn't they show it at the end of last season?
No, they showed it in a freaking teaser
Oh my
shot on the
gosh.
trailer.
So it wasn't even in the show.
yeah.
No, in last season, they showed a flashback scene
Mhm.
of
Okay.
when they
Showed
were
a
telling the story of the ages of Middle Earth or whatever.
Well, I mean, and then Disa has her moment with the stone,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and she slips down this dark passage which abuts the market for some reason.
That no one's ever delved
Nobody's
into.
gone down. And nobody's been delving in. She delves
It's right
And-
there.
right there, and then she gets that resonance that lets her know that there. Durin comes in and tells his father, "It's a nameless evil." Right?
That's
Something from
the
deep-
magic system doesn't make sense here.
It's like it's lines straight from Saruman.
Mm.
A nameless evil, awake in the deep, and he's like, dude, we can't be delving. I know what you're trying to do, Dad. You're trying to delve deep, right?
And then he's like, Delve
Like-
Master.
And then he goes, Delve Master, delve. I want you to. I'm gonna start delving even harder.
And then he like puts his hand and is like right there.
Yeah,
freaking um I think that I'm just very disappointed because once we also, we go back to Numenor, the little boy gets killed because he follows his captain's command.
Yeah, and let's be honest, that actor, I'd have hired him for Isildur.
You think?
He's more rugged looking. He looks rugged.
The one that gets killed.
Yeah, I like him better.
Oh.
He looks more rugged than the Isildur actor that they got.
You think?
Yeah. He just looks a little bit more manly.
Isildur does look a little boyish.
He looks boyish. He
Little
should be looking
soft.
like a man.
Yeah, I don't care for Isildur. He doesn't give me anything that I love about Isildur, so I don't know.
You're
Well,
supposed to-
also,
you're this is okay. So Isildur's the guy who doesn't throw the ring into the fire when Elrond asks him to.
Yes,
Correct.
So you're supposed to expect me to believe
he can cut off the hand of.
yeah, that he and his dad and Gil-galad fought Sauron.
well, Isildur doesn't fight Sauron in the books.
No?
Only in the movie. Isildur cuts the ring off of Saruman's dead hand after his father and
And Gil-galad defeated him.
Gil-galad defeated him, but died in the process of defeating Sauron. And he,
Okay.
in the movies, they made Isildur cut the hand while Sauron was still alive and well. But that's not what happened in the books.
Okay. Well, still, the Numenorians were the greatest warriors in all the land.
Correct.
It doesn't say, the greatest human warriors. It says the greatest warriors.
They were
Um,
supernaturally gifted.
It was an island.
they
It was an
can't
island
be-
of Captain America's.
Yeah.
They were
They
an
can't
island.
be
They were an island of Captain
better
America.
than Gladriel. Gladriel is pretty good.
Probably.
He's a
not.
good
She can
fighter.
kill an ice
Yeah.
troll in under 10 seconds.
Yeah, literally 10
Um,
seconds. But they were on average 6'5".
Mhm.
Elendil was 8,
Mm.
almost 8 feet tall.
And the tallest Numenorian we have is Elendil in the show.
Yeah, and he's maybe 6'3". that
Maybe.
actor. Maybe.
He stands next to a lot of shorties. This
Mhm.
whole cast, from the elves to the Numenorians to everybody, nobody feels like they live in a medieval world.
Yeah.
They all look like they're vegans. They
Mhm.
all look doughy with a little extra spare tire.
Everybody looks a little bit doughy. Everybody, it looks like
They're
it-
all
like,
deprived of
it looks like
protein and testosterone. is
it
what
looks like, for the Numenorians, if the three of us walked on set.
Yes.
Three
5'5".
guys, three
I have a spare
American,
tire because I sit down a lot.
I
All
ain't
guys-
5'5".
okay, but you're not 6 foot. Come on.
I'm not 5'5" either. I'm
I mean,
5'5".
all
I'm close.
guys below 6 foot. None of us are, heavily muscled.
Mm-mm.
That's what all
We're a
of
little
these
pale,
characters look like.
a little pale.
None of them look they. I don't
Well, I
know.
got that going for me.
Pale,
Yeah.
gaunt, maybe Gollum.
You could play Gollum. I was gonna say.
Maybe.
So
No
yeah,
CGI.
and we get that. That happens. Oh, did you guys catch in that ceremony where they
Which
were like
ceremony?
that ceremony before the kid dies?
Okay.
They're putting candles in the water. Was it me or did they say Narsil?
I think they might have.
At
don't
the end, they say
remember.
like Narsil, like
What-
almost
what
like a
of
prayer
it?
word, like saying "Amen" almost.
Yeah,
Oh.
something like that. Yeah, I
Narsil
think you're
is-
right. I think you're
Narsil
right.
is
I
the
don't
name
remember the
of
word, but I remember they were
the
saying
sword.
something.
The sword that cut
Narsil.
the ring from Sauron's hand. Narsil.
Yeah, Narsil's not popular yet. It's the king's. It's supposed
Yeah,
to be the
that's
king's
what I was
sword.
like. I was like, are they saying Narsil? That's the name of the king's sword.
I did not hear that.
I'm not
Remember.
gonna speak too much because I wasn't. I know they said a word, but
Yeah.
I cannot recall if they said Narsil or not.
Mm-hmm.
You might be right. And if they
I've
say
only
Narsil, that's kind of a crazy thing.
in that. Yeah, I've only got one more note. It was back with the dwarves where Durin 3 is saying to Durin 4 about people or kings, right? He says, time and pressure makes good kings. I look over to my brother. I'm like, the same way it makes gemstones. And he says, the same way it makes gemstones. And I was like, yes!
He called
I mean,
it right there.
Oh, immediately.
It's predictable. The writing is so
So
predictable.
I have a handful of notes still.
Yeah.
I think did you guys notice, what does it say? What was it that was said exactly? So I'll hit that at the end because it was like one of the very last things that was said.
Mhm.
Speaking of Saruman one-liners that's repeated. Do you notice that the High King at the very end of this show says, we cannot defeat Adar and Sauron? You know what I mean? When he's like, I have reason to believe that Sauron is in Eregion, right?
Mhm.
Out of nowhere, just because the ring might have whispered it to his butthole or something.
Mhm.
So it's another thing, except in Lord of the Rings, there's the quote that Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh and all them wrote for Saruman's character, where he talks about how can anyone stand up to the power of the two towers,
The two
both
towers.
Saruman and
And
Sauron. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we have the High King being like,
Repurpose.
we cannot defeat Adar and Sauron.
Repurpose swill.
Yes,
Slop.
repurposed.
The sloppy seconds, if you will, of Peter Jackson's movies is what they're doing.
Overall, I think this idea that, especially with Celebrimbor and Anatar, that the elves are completely void of wisdom.
Yeah.
Void of any kind of wisdom or discernment. And it's not because they're being tricked. It's because I guess the writers don't know how to write an intelligent, convincing what?
And they don't know how to write elves.
They don't know how to write. They don't know how to write characters being tricked and make it feel like a reasonable trick that could happen in real life.
I mean,
so they have to make these elves so incredibly stupid just to convince the audience in their writing that they're being tricked by someone who's a little smart.
I do feel like Anatar's methods are valid. He's like, he never says at the beginning, he's like, you're a great craftsman. You know, why not keep making the rings? And almost convinces Celebrimbor to lie to High King Gil-galad, right? In his with his deception. Then later he comes back at him and he's like, well, there must be something wrong because you lied. You were untruthful. And that feels like a very good tactic.
If Celebrimbor was 7 years old.
But I'm saying Anatar has convinced Celebrimbor with number one, his Sauron magic and his presentation that he is he's closer to being a Maiar. Like he's closer to being, you know, a higher being.
Yes.
Who's been sent here as a messenger. He's not a regular elf.
No.
So his interpretation being, you lied. We're doing this under the guise of deception, you know, almost under a cloud of deception. That's what's wrong with the rings. We have to be honest, or we have to finish this up.
I'm not convinced that is passable in any capacity to an elf. Period.
Well, here's the
like
other
normal elf.
The knowledge they're working off of is that anybody that Sauron spends a significant amount of time with, he's got them. That he's corrupting them, he's influencing them. So the knowledge that they're working off of is that's already happening to Celebrimbor.
Yeah. So what?
So the arguments, I'm not saying that the arguments are good. I absolutely think they're stupid. But
it's literally lie to daddy. You know what I mean? It's
logic they're working off of.
the logic there. Look, the foundation of deception is there. The execution is
poor.
how does Sauron corrupt Celebrimbor? He gets him to lie to Daddy, and then he accuses him that he did a bad thing, and so the bad things is because of his karma from lying, right?
Yeah.
And again, we go back to what is this magic system that's so
Nobody knows.
incredibly non-understandable that
Nobody knows.
in all of his thousands of years, Celebrimbor cannot pick up or sniff out that the magic system's not tied to if I lie to the king or not. You know what I mean? Like, what foolishness is this? Also,
Well, and I'm gonna push back against that a little bit because they are, because Anatar is supposed to be a close to godly being. So his interpretation of why something might be wrong as a deflection being perhaps it is a more ethereal spiritual thing like deception, perhaps could affect the magic. And Gil-galad, or not Gil-galad, what's his face? Celebrimbor is already under the spell, and he's accepting that this perhaps higher being might have a better understanding of the situation. So I'm not saying that it's perfect writing, but I think in that sense, it makes sense that he would be like, okay, maybe that's something, because because of a twofold argument.
What did you think of the line when Celebrimbor gets up in front of all the busted vegan elves?
Yeah.
And he basically says, in order to make the 9, well, in order to continue forward, we need to pull from the 3 and we need to redeem the 7 by making the 9, right? What did you think of that whole logic there? That line of reasoning?
I mean, the logic doesn't make any sense because the 3 were made last originally. They were made without the influence of Sauron.
Correct.
And then, so it already doesn't track. But I don't know.
In the series of events, the dwarves have had the rings for roughly, if you're being very generous, a day and a half, 2 days. You know what I mean?
Actually, probably closer to several months.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the travel times.
So why don't they just go and pick up the rings if they believe them to be malware of some sort to a dark force or a dark spirit, right? If they are corrupted, they are therefore invalid. They are not, they also, as you just said, Celebrimbor does not understand the magic system and it's not being adequately communicated to him.
Well, I don't, you're making me argue for the show's logic.
I don't think there is any logic.
There
here.
is.
I think they just made a bunch of flowers.
The reason that he's
farted on the flowers
not telling Gil-galad is because he lied, and he doesn't want to be uncovered for being a liar.
I understand.
The second thing is that his big achievement, which was creating the 3 rings, which healed the tree, right, will be tainted by the fact that maybe he failed on this next round. And 3, his legacy of being the greatest smith in Middle Earth will be taken from him. And we've already seen that that's seemingly the most important thing to this version of Celebrimbor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if he believes
by the show's logic, it's not like they're just making up the way he reacts. He's reacting according to the way that they wrote the character.
But he just got off a conversation talking about, hey, we might have corrupted these rings because we lied. So
I'm confused at this point.
If he's not going to tell the king that he continued to make rings, but he's going to redeem himself by making more rings, are you not still under the same deception?
I guess, but
yes, the answer is freaking yes.
Again, Sauron was like, Sauron kind of gave him 2 options. He's like, we tell the king or we forge on and hope that that's not what it is. That's kind of
don't
what he
think
said.
that's
It could
not
be a
one.
lie. You did lie, is what he said.
Yeah.
He's like, you did lie. So we could tell the truth, which will taint your legacy. Or we can kind of hope that that's not the case, that it's not the lie that's affecting it, and forge on. It's just his way of getting him to keep making rings. And it tracks within the writing of their characters. It's bad writing. They're bad characters, so the logic is stupid,
Yes.
but it is somewhat there.
Okay, let me let's make a prediction. So they're about to make the 9 rings for the
Yeah.
men.
For
They
humans.
might show up first seen on episode 6.
You guys think Farazan is the
Mhm.
Witch King of Angmar?
The Witch King of Angmar, Farazan?
Which
yeah,
who's that?
probably.
He's the one that stabs Frodo, the one that holds up the fire.
No,
sword.
yeah.
Farazan is supposed to die when they go to storm Valinor. He's supposed to be completely annihilated, and Numenor is supposed to be swallowed by the ocean, and only a few ships with Isildur and some of his men get away and survive, and they go become the establishers of Gondor. Now, Farazan in this show very well could become the Witch King.
If he doesn't become the Witch King, he definitely becomes a ring wraith.
Who else is set up to become the Witch King in the show?
There's
but
no other
Farazan?
king.
That's him. It's just him.
There's no other kings unless they introduce a king of Rune. Maybe the dark wizard that they show
The Dark
in Rune
Wizard.
He could become.
That's more likely to me. That's more.
No, but
likely
he's
to
an
me.
Istar.
Yeah,
Tom
he's not-
Bombadil
isn't he?
said that he's an Istar.
Yeah,
Did
he's
he?
human.
Yeah.
He can't have a human ring. He's not a human.
Yeah, he's an. I think Bombadil said another Istar came through here, and I taught him magic.
Yeah.
The Istar. He's got to be. He's got to be
Yeah, what
one
are
of
you
the blue
saying?
wizards, then, right?
Man, you guys are
Yeah.
talking nonsense. He's not human. Why would he get a human ring?
We're
Well, we're
saying
trying to
he's
figure
not.
out
We're
who's gonna
saying
become
he's
the
an
Witch King.
Istar. He's Istari. He's not gonna get a ring.
We're trying to figure out who's going to become the Witch.
I
King.
was initially I was like, he's a dark sorcerer, which is what the Witch King of Angmar was.
Mhm.
The ring wraith.
Yeah, but then I remembered he's an Istar. He's not actually a human.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So who's the Witch King
The only
in this
king
show?
that is
Farazan.
Yeah.
It's
And-
not what
yeah.
happens in the books.
or his
But-
son.
Also, I think the 9 rings will probably be made like that in the next episode.
Oh, yeah.
They will
Well,
distribute them to the people of Numenor.
I mean, they want it's clear they want all the rings in play by the end of the season. So they're going to be made because it seems like they're just trying to, this season we've barely seen anything from Gandalf, not Gandalf, and Tom Bombadil and the Harfoots and stores. So
Fingers.
really this season, if I was going to say what the season is so far, it's create rings, give them to people. That's really what the
And
season
no
is.
battles, even though they promised us battles.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did a storyline that's like they find out Anatar.
Mhm.
He escapes to Farazan. He escapes to Numenor. And is
They're
with
going to
Farazan.
find out Anatar because it's in the trailer. Like Galadriel says. That's
Yeah.
Sauron.
And then there will be a quest to try to hunt down the 9 rings. The 9
Yeah.
rings from or something. I wouldn't be surprised if they do something like that. To stop them from getting to kings or whatever.
We'll see. I think it's
You
probably
will
going to be
definitely.
pretty soon. I think episode 6, the 9 rings will be done and in play, because apparently you can make very powerful rings of power like that.
Yeah, where are they getting all this mithril?
I don't know.
Where'd they get all the mithril for the? I guess they got the mithril for the dwarf rings from the dwarves, but he was getting extra mithril for his runes. They haven't shown
No.
any more mithril mining.
Also, I hate the fact that they're trying to explain how they're doing the power rings.
Mhm.
Like, no, it's clearly not like, it's not mithril. That's not the ticket. You know what I mean?
It's an alloy, dude. It's an alloy. They'd never heard of alloys before.
Besides the this is a dumb question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway, just to make sure my mind is in the right place. Besides the human rings, that's all the rings that are left, correct?
Yeah.
We're not
7 for the
missing any.
dwarves, 9 for the humans, 3 for
Yes.
the elves.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
And
There's
so
no
that's all the
others left.
rings. So yeah, so far we have all but the humans. We were still waiting on humans, and
We shouldn't have any. We should just
No.
take a break for 50 years because that's how long it took Celebrimbor.
We should have maybe like 2 rings out there, like they made them and gifted them to somebody, gifted them to dwarves. I feel like it would have happened slowly.
If this
As
is House
they
of the
made
Dragon,
rings, they would have presented it to a king or a lord or something.
yes.
See, and yeah. But we did at the very end, we got one more mystery box thing, Galadriel's with the orcs. Now.
And
mhm.
Adar is like, you want to know why I brought you here?
Yeah.
Because we have a common enemy down
And she's
there.
got a thing. She's got a sharp thing. Bro, I saw the one orc, the one with the family. I was like, that's him. I was
That's
pointing him out to John Mark. I was like, that's the orc with the family.
We're like, don't kill him, Galadriel.
Yeah,
He's got
dude,
a family.
If she had stabbed that orc, I would have actually kind of been like, ah, no.
What
Yeah,
about his
family.
family?
That one had a family.
That's funny.
Anyway.
He didn't even want to go to war.
he didn't want to be here, man.
The man was pushing him.
Anyways.
What a disappointing episode.
Yeah.
There was only 2 things I kind of
Honestly,
enjoyed, and they were so fast.
I didn't enjoy a lot with this episode, but it was, to me, more bearable to watch. The other ones felt boring. This felt like I could watch it all the way through and didn't have to take a break.
There
Is
was
that
more
bad?
dwarf stuff. No, there was more
Yeah.
dwarf stuff in this, which the dwarf stuff has so far been the most bearable to watch for me.
Yeah,
Look,
and it's not good for your show if you have to watch an episode like 15 minutes, take a break, 30 minutes, take a break, and then finish the episode. If you have to do that with one episode, then you got a bad show.
Yeah.
I've done that with every episode of The Ring.
Me
I watch
too.
them
Me
all the
too.
way through. I never stop.
You never stop.
No,
Wow.
I sit there and I take notes.
How do you
all
just
the way
peel
through.
your eyes open?
I do it, man.
I always
watch
get
it.
sleepy watching.
What's
this
that
show.
trend where you get on a plane and just like fly without watching?
Oh,
anything?
just
Is
raw
that what
dog
you're
in
doing?
the plane?
You're raw dogging
the plane
for an
ride.
hour?
Yeah. That's what. Yes, exact. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm getting drinks and food before I even start.
Nope, doesn't
Drinks and
count.
food.
Yeah,
Sipping
doesn't
on
count.
Mountain Dew while you're trying to get through the Rings of Power. Oh my gosh. I really did not enjoy this episode. Primarily because of just the series of events and the time, not the manner, but the time in which they took place.
Mhm.
That really bothered me. As soon as that opening shot showed that the dwarves' rings were already made and delivered,
Yeah.
pissed me off. And
Yeah.
it just went on and on and on from there, right? And it would feel like we're already, I mean, in the series of events, when it comes to the Rings of Power, we've already skipped 35, 40 years. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
In the course of in between 2 episodes.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
there you go. It's ridiculous, and I don't think we're actually going to get a battle this season. I think they
we'll
lied
get
to us.
I think they'll probably try to squeeze one into the last 2 episodes. They're ramping up for one in Eregion.
Yeah, they are actually.
Yep. And the Numenorians are gonna come support Anatar.
Again, that's such a long.
They'll
such a
show up.
long-
They'll be there.
Long travel.
It's near
just-
the ocean, right?
To ride the Eagles.
They'll ride the eagle.
Ride the Eagles.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the show. Thank you guys for watching. Tell us what you think of the episode down in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys next week for the next episode of Rings of Power.